You're probably scrolling through a dozen grill options right now, trying not to waste your hard-earned cash on something that ends up just gathering ash in the corner. I get that hesitation. The last thing you want is a fancy-looking appliance that looks great on the patio but leaves you frustrated every time you fire it up. If you're wondering whether the MEMPHIS Elite built-in ITC3 pellet grill is the right fit for your kitchen, stick around. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about what makes a built-in pellet grill different from the standalone models you see at most backyard barbecues. Instead of pulling a propane tank or charcoal bag, you load wood pellets into a hopper and the unit automates the combustion process. That means you get the smoky flavor of wood without the constant juggling of fuel, and you can program a temperature and walk away. The promise is a set-and-forget smoker that also sears like a grill. That promise is what the MEMPHIS Elite ITC3 is banking on, especially for people who have already built an outdoor kitchen and want a seamless, integrated look. Now, the ITC3 is the newest 202324 iteration from MEMPHIS Grills, and it's marketed as a premium built-in. That immediately tells you a couple of things. First, the unit is designed to be installed into a countertop or island, not just dropped on a concrete slab. Second, you're likely paying for a higher-end finish and for the convenience of having the grill become part of the overall design rather than a separate piece of equipment. Those are real benefits if you already have the space, a proper venting setup, and an electrical outlet nearby. The downside? Installation isn't a weekend DIY project for most people. You'll need to cut a hole for the exhaust, make sure the surrounding cabinetry can handle the heat, and possibly run a dedicated 120-volt line. If you're not comfortable with that level of remodel, the cost of professional installation can add up quickly, eroding the perceived value. Assuming you get it installed, the day-to-day experience is where the rubber meets the road. Loading pellets is as simple as opening the hopper, pouring in a bag, and closing it. The ITC3's hopper size is big enough for a few hours of steady cooking, which works well for a weekend smoke session of a brisket or pork shoulder. The control panel lets you set a temperature anywhere from 180 F up to 500 F, so you can go low and slow or crank up the heat for a quick steak sear. In practice, that range translates to a realistic workflow. You start a rack of ribs at 225 F, walk the kids to the pool, and come back to a perfectly smoked slab. If you need to switch to a quick grill, bump the temp up, give the grates a quick brush, and you have a steak ready in 10 minutes. One practical strength of the ITC3 is the consistency that a digital controller brings. Traditional charcoal or gas grills can swing a few degrees every time you open the lid, but the pellet system maintains a steadier heat because it's feeding pellets in measured intervals. For someone who wants a reliable low and slow cook without constantly watching a thermometer, that stability can be a game changer. It also means you can experiment with different wood flavors: hickory for a robust bark, apple for a sweeter note without having to swap out fuel sources mid-cook. On the flip side, the same digital system can be a source of frustration if something goes wrong. The ITC3 relies on an auger to feed pellets, an igniter to start the fire, and a blower to circulate air. If any of those components fail, the grill can stall, the temperature can drop, or you could end up with a pile of unburned pellets at the bottom of the hopper. Because the unit is built into a countertop, troubleshooting isn't as simple as pulling a plug and moving it outside. You often need to access internal components through a service panel that might be tucked behind cabinetry. If you're not handy with small appliance repairs, you could be looking at a service call that costs a few $100s. Another hidden trade-off is cleaning. Pellet grills produce a lot of ash, and the ITC3's built-in design means the ash collection tray is usually tucked beneath the grill surface. You'll need to pull it out, dump the ash, and wipe down the interior periodically. That's fine if you're already in the habit of cleaning a dedicated smoker, but it does add a maintenance step that many casual grillers forget about until the ash builds up and affects airflow. In my experience, a clogged auger or vent can cause temperature spikes or even shut the unit down entirely. So, who should seriously consider the MEMPHIS Elite ITC3? If you've already invested in an outdoor kitchen, think a granite countertop, a built-in sink, Maybe a pizza oven and you love the idea of having a smoker that blends into that design. The ITC3 is worth a look. It's also a solid choice for someone who grills at least a few times a month.